Japanese castles look nothing like their European counterparts. Why are they so different? The answers lie not just in geography or materials, but in the values that shaped Japanese society. Whether you're planning a castle visit or want deeper insight into Japan's culture, this is a must-know topic. In medieval Europe, constant threats from foreign invaders and fragmented rule led feudal lords to build massive stone walls. Castles functioned as fortified strongholds to protect people and territory. Japan, on the other hand, is an island nation. In over 2,000 years of history, it experienced very few full-scale foreign invasions. Most battles were internal power struggles between Japanese clans. From the medieval period onward, a centralized system led by the shogunate kept regional lords in check. As long as they obeyed, they were safe. So, Japanese castles focused less on thick outer walls and more on internal layout, control, and symbolism. Unlike Europe's stone castles, Japanese castles were primarily wooden. The biggest reason? Earthquakes. Japan is one of the most earthquake-prone countries on Earth. In fact, about 10% of all magnitude 7 or greater earthquakes worldwide in the past century occurred in Japan. Stone is durable but brittle. It can't flex with seismic motion and is extremely difficult to repair once damaged. Wood, by contrast, is lightweight, flexible, and absorbs vibrations better. Timber joints can move with the shaking, and even if buildings collapse, they can be rebuilt more easily. In contrast, Europe, where earthquakes are rare, valued stone for its durability and longevity. Christianity, with its strong affinity for stone architecture, further encouraged its use. That's why cathedrals, monasteries, and castles alike were built in stone.
Travel trivia. Horyuji Temple in Nara Prefecture, built in the 7th century, is among the world's oldest wooden structures. Despite being made of wood, it has survived for over 1,300 years, thanks to ingenious earthquake-resistant design. For example, the central pillar running through the 5-story pagoda absorbs seismic shocks, embodying Japan's unique wisdom in coping with frequent earthquakes. When visiting, paying attention to this structural beauty against earthquakes will deepen your appreciation of Horyuji.
From ancient times, fortifications were built by making use of natural terrain, but these were simple structures. In the latter half of the 16th century, however, castles underwent a dramatic transformation with the appearance of military strongholds featuring the iconic central tower known as the Tenshu. The turning point came in 1579, when Oda Nobunaga built Azuchi Castle. Innovations in stone wall construction made it possible to create solid foundations, which in turn allowed castles to grow larger in scale. The type of Japanese castle that we commonly imagine today was established around this time. However, this was the only period when Japanese castles underwent such a dramatic transformation. In 1603, when Tokugawa Ieyasu founded the Edo shogunate, Japan entered a stable era that lasted for about 260 years. With the end of constant warfare, castles lost their military function and were instead used as the administrative centers of each domain. Moreover, the shogunate prohibited feudal lords from indulging in extravagance, which meant castles were no longer decorated lavishly and their outward appearance saw little change. Thus, castles gradually shifted into facilities that served practical, governmental roles. Even today, many local government offices and courthouses stand near former castle sites, a legacy of this history. In contrast, European castles changed significantly over time. Fortresses with high walls and towers were redesigned into low, thick structures as powerful artillery developed. From the 17th century onward, as their military role declined, castles evolved into architectural expressions of rulers' authority and artistic taste. Did you know Japan also has a European-style castle? It's Goryokaku in Hakodate, Hokkaido. After signing a trade treaty with the United States in 1858, the shogunate concluded similar agreements with European nations, opening several ports to foreign trade. Hakodate was one of them, and Goryokaku was built there using the knowledge of the French. However, just 3 years after the completion of Goryokaku, the Edo shogunate collapsed. The samurai-led era ended, and Japan entered the Meiji period, now under the control of an emperor. At this turning point, a civil war lasting about a year broke out between the old shogunate forces and the new government. Driven north to Hokkaido, the shogunate's army made its last stand at Goryokaku, where it was finally defeated.
Travel trivia. Oda Nobunaga is one of the most admired samurai in Japan. Beyond revolutionizing castle design, he also permitted the spread of Christianity and introduced innovative policies, such as Rakuichi Rakuza, a system of free markets. His influence even reaches modern Japan. The name of Rakuten, once a sponsor of FC Barcelona, was inspired by Rakuichi Rakuza.
Japanese castles, unlike their European counterparts, did not have towering stone walls. So, how did they secure their defenses? The answer lies in uniquely Japanese ingenuity. Do you picture Japan as a land filled with skyscrapers wherever you go? In reality, about 70% of the country is mountainous. Taking advantage of this terrain, medieval mountain castles cleverly use valleys and steep slopes as natural defenses. By contrast, much of Europe consists of relatively flat land. This meant high walls and towers had to be constructed artificially, not only to block enemy advances, but also to secure wide visibility over the surrounding area. These geographical differences directly shaped the contrasting structures of castles in Japan and Europe.
Travel trivia. Japan's mountainous terrain is something you can experience firsthand on the Shinkansen. The Tokaido Shinkansen, linking Tokyo and Nagoya, passes through 66 tunnels. In contrast, the French TGV between Paris and Lyon has no tunnels at all. The Sanyo Shinkansen from Shinosaka to Hakata has 142 tunnels, making up nearly half of the entire route. The new Chuo Shinkansen, now under construction, will connect Tokyo and Nagoya in just 40 minutes at a top speed of 500 kilometers per hour. But 86% of the line will run underground through tunnels.
Japan is one of the rainiest countries in the world, and castles turned this to their advantage. Moats were more than just waterways. They slowed advancing enemies and became vital lines of defense. Today, many moats have been filled in, but at several castles, you can still see them as they once were, offering a glimpse into the ingenious strategies of the past.
Travel trivia. The curved roofs seen on Japanese castles and shrines are also products of Japan's battle with rain. Their shape closely resembles a cycloid curve, the trajectory along which an object slides down a slope in the shortest time. Since wood weakens when soaked, fast drainage was essential. At the same time, Japan has long valued harmony with nature. These flowing rooflines were designed not only for function, but also to blend seamlessly into the surrounding landscape. In short, curved roofs are not mere decoration. They are a uniquely Japanese solution that combines practical engineering with timeless beauty.
Japanese castles were designed so enemies couldn't easily reach the central keep Tenshu. The grounds were divided into multiple sections, and paths were made deliberately narrow and winding to slow intruders and break their momentum. Another clever feature was the Masugata, a square courtyard where enemy soldiers would be trapped, only to be attacked from surrounding high points. In many ways, the entire castle functioned like a giant trap. Today, many castles have been renovated for easier sightseeing, but if you notice twisting passageways, zigzagging gates, or unusually narrow paths, remember they were once ingenious defensive tricks. Walking with this in mind makes the experience even more fascinating. It is said that Japan once had more than 2,000 castles. Today, however, only about 100 remain. This dramatic decline was the result of political reforms, wars, and other harsh turns of history. 1615, the Edo shogunate issued a law forbidding feudal lords from possessing multiple castles. Each domain was allowed only one. Castles were seen as potential bases for rebellion, so many were demolished. As a result, the number of castles fell to around 200. The peace and stability of the Edo period, which lasted for about 260 years, was maintained through such strict control over the lords. 1873. With the fall of the Edo shogunate, Japan established a modern nation-state centered on the emperor, striving to catch up with Western powers. In this new era, both samurai and castles were regarded as symbols of the old order. Ironically, many of the officials who carried out the reforms had themselves been powerful samurai only a few years earlier. Truly, it was samurai dismantling the samurai. The Meiji government ordered castles to be demolished, and their sites were repurposed as military facilities or public parks. Thanks to preservation efforts by local communities, a few were saved, but the total number of castles dwindled to about 40. From 1941 to 1945. During World War II, many castles were destroyed in air raids. Others that survived the bombings were later lost to fires. In the end, only 12 castles with original keeps Tenshu from the Edo period remain today. Because of this history, most of the roughly 100 castles you can see today are post-war reconstructions built with reinforced concrete. Some were faithfully restored, while others include imaginative interpretations, and in certain cases, entirely new castles were constructed in places that never had them, purely to promote tourism. Knowing this background reveals just how precious those 12 surviving original castles are. When visiting, simply being aware of whether you are looking at a 400-year-old survivor or a modern reconstruction can profoundly deepen your experience. The word otaku is now famous worldwide for people who dive deep into a single passion like anime or trains. But did you know there are also castle otaku? They don't just stroll through castles, they study them like experts, analyzing defenses from an attacker's point of view, guessing the era or the ruling lord from the style of the stone walls, and even reading the landscape to imagine what buildings once stood there. In this video, we also touched on Japan's natural environment. Japan is not only one of the most earthquake and rain-prone countries in the world, but it also has vast forest resources and ranks among the top in the number of volcanoes. These natural conditions had a profound impact on where castles were built, how they were structured, and which building materials were chosen. Yet it wasn't just nature, geopolitics, social systems, and many other factors became intertwined, shaping the unique evolution of Japanese castles. It's not just castles. Japan's natural environment has also shaped the way its people think. For centuries, the Japanese have lived amid earthquakes, storms, and disasters, learning that nature cannot be controlled and that divine spirits dwell in all things of the natural world. This is the heart of Shinto, and it sets Japan's view of nature apart from the West. At the same time, the repeated awareness of human vulnerability in the face of nature became closely tied to the Buddhist concept of Mujo. The sense that nothing lasts forever became deeply ingrained in Japan's cultural identity. By seeing Japan through this lens, your trip will be so much more than sightseeing. Castles are not just beautiful buildings, they are living gateways into the spirit of Japanese society itself. Just knowing whether the keep before you has stood for more than 400 years or was rebuilt after the war can completely change the way you experience it. Want to dive deeper? Try looking through the eyes of a castle enthusiast. Notice how the stones are stacked, or how the paths twist and turn. You'll start to feel the clever strategies and craftsmanship of the samurai who built these fortresses long ago.